yes, I understand everyone who's texting in right now. I see you. I appreciate you. That the ceiling is the roof and the roof is the ceiling. I understand all of that.
I like that.
But
for what's the ceiling for the Cowboys?
Well, it does
this
open
year?
up though.
for the flip side, what is the ceiling? What's the floor for the Cowboys? In terms of like, what's the best you could see this shaking out? What's the worst that you could see this shaking out for the season?
I will start with the best.
Okay.
Best that I can see shaking out for this season is getting into the NFC Championship game.
Oh.
I think there are some really tough opponents there. Now, the thing about the NFC is I don't think that anybody really stands out. Cowboys absolutely could jump in there and be like, look, we decided we were going to be bigger than we are this year. We're going to bully some people around in the playoffs. We're not going to let anything slide.
Even the Rams,
Yeah, I think they can. I think they
asking.
can beat every team in this division. The last couple of years it's been this way where I'm like, I think they can beat every team in the conference. And when we were talking to Basham, we asked, Galmore had the answer of, we want to be the bullies on defense this year whenever it comes to us getting run through last year. When Basham said it, he said, man, we ran into a buzzsaw, which I think that we've all seen that happen in sports. It happened with the Rangers against San Francisco. They got hot at the right time. Sometimes it is a buzzsaw team, and the 49ers were a buzzsaw last year. Then they said, but you know what else he added to it was, we didn't expect them to come in and be as good as they were. That's something that I don't think you can ever underestimate your opponent if you're a prepared team. And if you weren't prepared for that moment in the playoffs, you were just going to ease yourself into a playoff game. You did something wrong, man. So I think that's you have to change your mentality and mindset. That would be my best case scenario for the Cowboys. Their ceiling is they aren't in the approach of, we aren't prepared for that moment. They are. The worst case scenario for them is that they don't go 500. They're just below. That's their floor, is they're just below 500 because of a significant injury.
So CBS did ceiling and floor for every team across the NFL. Their ceiling, 12-5 for the Cowboys, reached the NFC Championship. And their floor is 8-9, missed the playoffs. And do
they have a reason why on that? Because I think it would take a significant injury for that to be the reason.
They think that the offensive line is set up to be the downfall of this team. So,
man, that is the thing that we don't know. We have no clue how this offensive line. Game one, we'll find out. But, man, we don't have a clue how they're. But I think they can't be that bad, right?
I think they can. I hope they're not. But you know how we always say, if you have to use if too many times or hope too many times, you could be in trouble. And I keep thinking about it from the perspective of, if Tyler Smith shows immediately that he was worthy of being a first-round draft pick. Hold
on. Let's do the other side. If he doesn't.
Then,
so as you're doing this, I want you to go, and if this way, if that way.
That's a terrifying part for me. If Connor McGovern shows that he could actually be a full-time starting offensive lineman.
If he doesn't.
Yeah, and then think about it. If Tyler Biadasz shows that he's no longer going to definitely be the worst part of this offensive line.
If he doesn't.
Well, I can't see a positive scenario in which that means the rest of the offense line was so awesome. Okay. But more likely, if you're looking at the left side of your line and you're like, holy crap, I'm looking at 60%. And every single one of them, you're like, if. And that is the part that makes me nervous.
If Zach Martin finally plays like a Hall of Famer.
I am less concerned about that. As long as he stays healthy, I think he'll still kick ass and make the All-Pro team again. And then I know people have if questions about Terrence Steele. So for some people, 80% of this offensive line is an if. And that might be too extreme, but that is why, like CBS said, 8 and 9. And then just for the record, because this always comes up, and I missed it now because there's a lot of feedback happening. Oh, here we go, from the 940. LMAO, y'all overestimate this POS team every year at this time. I mean, except for literally the last time we did this when I said they wouldn't win 12 games, and they did and won the division. So I don't really know if that is a factual argument right there.
Well, I just think too, looking at the division too, the
division sucks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's been that way for a little bit. No team really stands out. The only team that I feel is going to maybe give them the most issues would be the Eagles.
Sure.
And then looking through the rest of the NFC, I mean, there's only a couple teams, maybe a few that I think they're going to really be the challenge for them. I don't feel like the Buccaneers are going to be the Buccaneers that we've seen. I feel like there's some issues going on with Brady and stuff that they've been talking about off the field. I think that's going to play a factor into week 1. So we'll see how that works. Hopefully you get the W there. Going out though and looking at the rest of the NFC, Green Bay is a team that I don't know if they're ready to beat them yet. And then also looking at the end, the Rams. That's it. I don't really see anybody else that stands in their path of getting to the NFC.
Whereas if they're in the AFC, you feel like it would be
there's a lot more
daunting challenge. Okay,
correct.
Oh, for sure.
And that's
add this too. The strength of schedule. How is their schedule?
They have literally the easiest schedule in the NFL.
There should be, the expectations should be very high. If you're a Cowboys fan, you should really, I mean, obviously every year it's that way to begin with, but I think going forward now with the strength of schedule, they have the easiest path to get there. Now, I'm not saying there really is an easy path, but your only toughest challenges going forward looks like it's going to be the Eagles, the Packers, and the Rams.
Okay.
At some point.
I see a lot of people ceiling and floor saying 10-7 to 7-10, which I think is a more limited scope than I think is likely. Like, I think they could swing further on either side. But from the 6-8-2, we have a couple of outliers, but a lot of people say best 10-7, worst 7-10.
I don't like the 10 losses, though. I feel like there has to be some major things happening that they lose 10 games.
But, I mean, okay, I'm telling you right now, like, God forbid, this would be awful. Like, put aside Dak, because this house of cards, like most teams, falls apart without your quarterback. Like, let's put that aside. What if Zach Martin were to get hurt? Then all of a sudden, you're 100% for some people ifs on the offensive line. Now, I'm optimistic about some of those. Like, I'm hopeful about Terrence Steele. I'm optimistic about Tyler Smith. But I'm just saying, like, that's the scenario, to your point, where I could see this turning bad quickly, unfortunately. But what do you think about this? From the 6-8-2, the ceiling is 11-6 divisional round exit. The floor is 5-12. And then from the 5-1-2, or excuse me, from the 6-8-2, at best 500 record, worst top 8 draft pick. I will tell you this. I know that people are not as bullish on the Cowboys this year, but I will tell you, there is no way in hell that I think best case scenario for this team is 500.
Did we
even at 8-1?
Did we? Yeah, no
ties.
Saying,
they got to limit. First of all, we got to limit ties.
Yes, best case scenario, I think is better than 500 for sure.
Better coached. They have too much talent for that to be an 8-8 team. I mean, they really do. I will also add, last year going into that playoff game, didn't we all agree that we got the worst matchup out of all the teams that we wanted?
Yeah,
and we were looking at that going,
run.
crap. They finally all figured it out too. Like the San Francisco took a while to figure that out, and we were like, oh crap. So like I think this team has too much talent to wind up at 8-8. But I mean, I overestimate that. They said that I was the one that overestimates this team all the time. It gave you a pretty reasonable understanding of saying where their floor is. And their floor, I don't think that they are a 4-13 team.
No chance.
There's just that they don't have that kind of build unless Dak.
Sure.
Kevin, I don't think they're a 4-13 team if they lose Zach Martin. I think that they are a worse team for sure. But I don't think they're a 4-13 team.
No, I agree. It is hard for me to envision them getting to 4-13, save for a quarterback injury, which would obviously be awful and sad for a variety of reasons. But if you lost Zach Martin, I could see it spiraling more in the negative direction. But that's why I like to see where people are at. Like, what's best case scenario? What's worst case scenario? I do not think, and yes, I appreciate from the 9-7-2. 0-17 is the worst case scenario. 17-0 is the best. That's best case scenario. That's very fair. That is very fair.
It's also technically correct.
Yes, which is the best kind of correct.
That's right.
Could have been an Eagles fan though, and they could be saying 0-17 is the best case scenario.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now, I don't think saying NFC Championship game is the best case scenario. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say at all. It's 2 more wins than last year. And we're saying best case scenario. Corey did not boldly say, I guarantee we'll be in the NFC Championship. He's best case scenario. I think that's feasible. That is not
what win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's not what I think's going to happen, but it could.
They've struggled to win those 2 games in the playoffs for whatever reason it is. I don't know. I mean, it's always a different reason, but they've struggled to win the next game to get to that place.